The Cleveland winter was unforgiving, each gust of wind a sharpened blade against exposed skin. Leonard, a man worn down by the relentless grind of life at 42, huddled against the brick wall of a deserted convenience store. His patched coat offered little warmth, his face a roadmap of hardship etched by time and loss. The neon glow of a distant billboard mocked his poverty, showcasing a world he could no longer reach. He held a cardboard sign. Its plea, "Anything helps. God bless," barely legible under the grime. Each passing footstep was a reminder of his invisibility, a silent judgment of his fall from grace. Cars roared past, oblivious to the human wreckage clinging to the edge of their world. Then, a glint of expensive white stopped a few feet away. Impeccable sneakers that spoke of privilege and youth. Leonard, his heart weary but hope refusing to be extinguished, looked up. Standing there, phone in hand, was Barron Trump, the name instantly recognizable even in Leonard's dazed state. A gaggle of onlookers started forming, their phones pointed like weapons, ready to capture the spectacle. Here was a study in contrasts, the epitome of wealth and the embodiment of destitution. "Excuse me, young man," Leonard croaked, his voice raspy from disuse. "Could you spare $1? Anything would help." Barron Trump paused, his eyes scanning Leonard. A long, tense silence stretched, amplified by the city's din. It was a silence that Leonard knew well, the prelude to rejection, to averted gazes and quickened steps. But something in Barron's expression held a different quality, curiosity. Then, Barron asked, his voice calm yet probing, "What do you need it for?" The question took Leonard aback. No one ever asked why. They simply refused or occasionally tossed a coin without making eye contact. Barron's gaze was steady, unflinching, demanding honesty. "Well," Leonard stammered, rubbing his chapped hands together, "a cup of coffee would be nice. Maybe a sandwich. It's been days since I had a proper meal." Shame burned in his chest, but the biting wind offered no alternative. Barron lowered his phone, his attention now fully focused on Leonard. The surrounding crowd grew larger, their collective gaze a tangible weight. "Tell me what happened," Barron said, his voice carrying a surprising depth. Hesitantly, Leonard recounted his misfortunes, the plant closure, the illness, the crushing debt, the spiral into homelessness. The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered, years of suppressed pain finally finding a voice. Barron listened intently, his young face etched with concern. The surrounding city faded away as Leonard poured out his story. "I'll give you more than $1, Barron said finally, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a crisp $100 bill and held it out to Leonard. "But I need you to promise me something." Leonard stared at the money, his mind struggling to comprehend the gesture. "What is it?" "Tomorrow morning," Barron said, scribbling an address on a notepad. "Go to this place. It's a resource center. Tell them Barron sent you. They can help you rebuild your life. But you have to want to help yourself." Leonard's eyes widened, the weight of hope settling heavily on his shoulders. He nodded, a silent promise made in the biting Cleveland winter. The money felt like a lifeline and a responsibility. The next morning, Leonard stood hesitant before the unassuming brick building. "Hope Outreach Resource Center," read the sign. A simple declaration that felt like a monumental promise. His hand trembled as he touched the address Barron had written. The $100 bill a comforting weight in his pocket. Doubts gnawed at him. Was this real? Could he truly change his life? Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door. The warmth inside was a welcome embrace, a stark contrast to the bitter cold. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a warm smile sat behind the front desk. "How can I help you?" she asked gently. Leonard pulled out Barron's note, his voice barely a whisper. Barron Trump sent me. He said I should come here." Recognition dawned on her face. "Ah, you must be Leonard. We were expecting you. Come on, let's get you started." The next few hours were a blur. Leonard met with a caseworker who listened without judgment, charting a path towards stability. A bed at the shelter, a doctor's appointment, job training, a lifeline he hadn't dared to imagine. It was overwhelming, but for the first time in years, Leonard felt a flicker of hope. As night fell, tucked away in the quiet corner of the homeless shelter, Leonard understood the true meaning of Barron's kindness. Unbeknownst to Leonard, the world outside the shelter was buzzing. The video of Barron's encounter with Leonard had exploded online, racking up millions of views in mere hours. News outlets picked up the story, praising or criticizing Barron's act. Some saw it as a publicity stunt, a calculated move by a privileged young man. Others viewed it as a genuine display of compassion, a reminder that even in a fractured world, empathy could still prevail. The comments section became a battleground of opinions. Privilege with a purpose. One user wrote, "This is how you use your influence for good." Another countered, "It's sad that kindness like this is so rare it surprises us. Probably just a PR stunt." The debate raged on, but one thing was undeniable. The video had touched a nerve. It sparked a conversation about poverty, compassion, and the responsibility of wealth. Back at his opulent home, Barron found himself bombarded by media requests and intrusive questions. The weight of public opinion pressed down on him, a suffocating blanket of expectations and judgments. His friends either envied him or distanced themselves, uncertain how to navigate the situation. Family members offered unsolicited advice, some praising him, others warning him about the dangers of attracting too much attention. "This is getting out of hand, Barron," his father said, his voice laced with concern. "You need to be careful. People will try to use you." But Barron remained steadfast. It wasn't about publicity or politics, it was about Leonard, about the promise he had made. He ignored the swirling chaos, focusing on the one thing he could control, making sure Leonard got the help he needed. He secretly arranged for larger donations to be funneled through the resource center, ensuring they had the means to support Leonard and others like him. Weeks turned into months, and Leonard began to transform. He diligently attended his therapy sessions, confronted his demons, and started to heal from the wounds of the past. He secured a part-time job at a local diner, his confidence slowly returning with each shift. One evening, as he was cleaning tables, a familiar face walked through the door. His heart skipped a beat. It was Paul, his younger brother, the one he hadn't spoken to in over a decade. "Leonard, is that really you?" Paul stammered, his eyes filled with a mixture of shock and remorse. "Paul," Leonard replied, his voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" "I saw the video," Paul said, his voice cracking. I didn't know things had gotten this bad. I should have been there for you." The reunion between Leonard and Paul was bittersweet. They shared awkward hugs and hesitant words, the weight of years of silence pressing down on them. As they talked, old wounds began to reopen. Resentment simmered beneath the surface, fueled by long-held grudges and unspoken accusations. They argued about their childhood, their parents, the choices they had made, a dark secret from their past, a tragic accident that had torn their family apart, resurfaced, threatening to shatter their fragile reconciliation. "It was your fault, Leonard," Paul accused, his voice filled with bitterness. "If you hadn't been so reckless, don't you dare blame me," Leonard retorted, his eyes flashing with anger. "We both made mistakes. We both paid the price." As Leonard gained his footing, the job, the shelter, and the meetings became a path to climb. But old habits die hard. The weight of past mistakes and temptations to simply slip back into a world he knew seemed simpler dragged at his feet. One bad day at the diner, a rude customer, a missed shift, led to a familiar craving. He walked past the liquor store, the neon lights a siren's call. He could just have one drink, he reasoned, just to take the edge off. He walked inside, the familiar smell of alcohol filling his senses. But as he reached for a bottle, he saw Barron's face in his mind, the genuine concern and hope in his eyes. He remembered the promise he had made. With a shudder, he turned away and walked out of the store. The urge was still there, but the memory of Barron's kindness was stronger. Behind the scenes, a powerful and influential politician, Senator Caldwell, saw an opportunity in the viral video. He decided to exploit Leonard and Barron's story for his own political gain, weaving a narrative of compassion and social responsibility to bolster his image. But his motives were far from pure. He had a hidden agenda, a web of corruption and self-interest that threatened to unravel everything Leonard and Barron had worked for. Caldwell's team began subtly manipulating the narrative, pushing the media to focus on his role in supporting the resource center and downplaying Barron's involvement. He approached Leonard, offering him a chance to be the face of his campaign, promising fame and fortune. Leonard, initially flattered, began to sense something was amiss. Caldwell's promises seemed too good to be true, his motives too self-serving. Barron, meanwhile, was grappling with his own internal struggles. The weight of his family name and the expectations that came with it pressed down on him. He harbored a secret, a past mistake he had made that threatened to resurface and destroy his reputation. He confided in Leonard, sharing his fears and anxieties. "It's not easy being a Trump," Barron confessed, his voice filled with weariness. "People expect so much from me. But I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, too." Leonard listened with empathy, recognizing the shared burden of guilt and the desire for redemption. He realized that Barron, despite his privilege, was just as vulnerable and human as he was. Together, Leonard and Barron began to investigate Senator Caldwell's motives. They uncovered a trail of corruption, bribery, and exploitation that led directly to Caldwell's office. They discovered that Caldwell was using the resource center as a front for illegal activities, skimming funds and exploiting vulnerable people. The truth was dangerous, and Caldwell's people began to target them, threatening their safety and trying to silence them. They knew they had to expose Caldwell before he destroyed everything they had worked for. Leonard and Barron, armed with evidence, decided to go public. They contacted a journalist known for her integrity and courage, ready to risk everything to expose Caldwell's corruption. The confrontation was explosive. Caldwell denied all allegations, accusing Leonard and Barron of being pawns in a political smear campaign. The media frenzy was intense, the public divided, and the stakes higher than ever. During the press conference, Caldwell's thugs showed up, seeking to intimidate Leonard into recanting. Barron stepped forward, shielding Leonard from any harm. In the chaos, Caldwell's thugs injured someone close to Leonard. The fight for justice would be a fierce one, but it was a fight that both Leonard and Barron were ready to face. With the help of the intrepid journalist, Leonard and Barron exposed Senator Caldwell's criminal activities to the world. The evidence was irrefutable, and the public outcry was deafening. Caldwell's career crumbled, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. He was indicted on multiple charges and faced the prospect of spending years in prison. But the victory came at a cost. Leonard, once again thrust into the spotlight, struggled to cope with the attention. He felt exposed and vulnerable, haunted by the ghosts of his past. He turned to Barron for support, finding solace in their unlikely friendship. Barron, now a young man on the cusp of adulthood, decided to dedicate his life to helping others. He established a foundation to support resource centers and other organizations that work to alleviate poverty and homelessness. He traveled the world, speaking out against injustice and advocating for social change. He learned that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the impact one had on the lives of others. Years later, Leonard and Barron stood side by side at the opening of a new resource center, a testament to their enduring friendship and unwavering commitment to social justice. They had come a long way from that cold Cleveland night, both transformed by the power of compassion and the strength of the human spirit. The story ends on a hopeful note, emphasizing the power of human connection, the potential for redemption, and the enduring legacy of kindness in a world that desperately needs it. The key is to truly embrace these concepts with raw emotional honesty, to make it less about being nice and more about being human.